Welcome again to the DebConf Committee BoF. DebConf Committee.
Can the first agenda item be introducing the committee and what we're supposed to be doing?
Can you zoom in a bit on the screen? Control-Shift plus or whatever.
Okay.
Maybe a couple more times. There we go.
More?
That's probably good. I threw together 3 agenda items. Please add agenda items. Or we will have a very quick meeting and go down and have coffee or beer.
Why do you think the meeting will be short?
It's about, do you want to swap seats? Are you going to get tired of being slapped both ways?
High voltage is coming, I think. Would you like to give that introduction, Bernelle?
I will give it as I understand it, and hopefully, and then you add on. So the way I understand the DebConf Committee, we were formed to help with cross-DebConf consistency, so to build some institutional memory across DebConf. So as you know, every Debian conference is organized by a volunteer team, and a lot of the work is done by a local team, and because we move around every year, that effectively means that the local team is brand new practically every year. There is a global team, and the video team and the sponsorship team, and many people help from year to year. But there are a lot of turnover because of this volunteer basis and because the location changes, and that's one of the best things I think about DebConf. In addition to that, we have very different styles of organizing, and especially if you're a new person and you're coming in, you've got very specific ideas about how things should work. And I think we all know very well that Debian does not work like that. So I think the DebConf Committee was explicitly created to help manage those and resolve and hopefully prevent any conflicts that may arise purely because of misunderstandings. So that's how I understand it. I think we can introduce the members and maybe then you add what you want to say about that. So my name is Bernelle Verster. I'm Indie Bio. I'm on IRC. Let's go. Next is Stefano Rivera, which you know is the master of basically everything. Tumbleweed on IRC. And then let's go with Daniel Lange. He's very good at sponsorship and just, how would you call that, networking. So he's a very good people person, I think. Wolf, Gunnar Wolf, is a very kind teddy bear. Who is also just very good with general questions and trust and all sorts of little details that you might never have known before. And then Terceiro, whose proper name I have now forgotten, Antonio Terceiro, is also a member and loves content things, I think. And I'll leave it to all of you to add anything you want to add.
Also, Bernelle and I have been around since DebConf 16, which we did in Cape Town. Generally, the committee is made up of old DebConf organizers who hang around to help the next lot. Daniel was from the 15 team. Gunnar dates all the way back to 3 Terceiro DebConf 19. So we exist to advise the next DebConf team to help them. One of the more formal things we do is help them form a budget, although the DPL signs off on that, but he usually wants the committee to approve it first. And there to be accountable and answer questions. But when it comes to DebConf itself, the local team is in charge. They're usually the people who have contracts with venues and the final decision on most of the things on the ground.
This is a little bit bigger with this point.
And we pick where the next DebConf goes. Sometimes historically this hasn't been in a public voting process. There have been times where we've used a private voting process because we were worried about boycott movements upsetting the selection. It varies.
Yeah, and we also, I think, actively help the bids. So it's not about having an agenda that we favor one. We really help them to get the best bid that they can. And so I guess for people who may stumble across this video, even if you've never arranged a conference before and you really want this to happen, that is fine because there's enough help to help you do it. And it's, from my personal perspective, that's something that I would highly recommend because it is the fastest way that you learn about Debian and the people in it. I love it, and you will find that out.
Yeah, part of what you say, in order to help a venue present, in order to help a bid or a venue present their candidacy, we maintain like a list of bullet points that are considered important, and during the preparation part, we will help any bidding team to try to improve or to recognize in which points they are not so strong and still present the bid, which is completely possible and even winnable.
Yeah, and I think on that note, it's a year-long thing, so it's a low-intensity committee. Obviously, as DebConf happens, there's maybe a bit more, but it's a year-round thing. So if there's a bid that was maybe weak the year before, we may have small, frequent help throughout the year. So that's sort of a working arrangement that we have.
We try and encourage the work to not all happen in the last 2 months, but most of it happens in the last 2 weeks.
Okay, anything else?
Probably say the committee work is the least intensive, the better the local team is organized. Because we're basically just an escalation body, save for the fact that we scrutinize bids and select bids. That's a totally separate piece of work. But once a bid is selected and a team is going, it could be that, except for status report, because we would otherwise get nervous, we basically have no work. Like nearly this year, like the team in Kosovo, that was just like totally smooth sailing, and kudos to the team. That was really excellent work.
Yeah, plus that.
Yeah, just pointing out that thing with this year. This year it was very smooth, although we were requested to take part as advisors in specific roles. For example, my involvement in the visa process. I'm not. I don't know anything about Kosovo, but I was part of the visa team. Well, to help them first know who is involved enough in Debian to vouch for them officially to get a visa, and to understand how things are usually done. So that's part of the role of the committee as well.
Okay. Is there anything else we want to add or questions from an introductory point of view from others attending? Okay. So I guess point 2. Is the delegation happy? Are the members of the delegation happy? Do we need to do any changes? And I suppose this is where I talk. So I retired from the Debian project last year somewhere, and about half of that was about needing to take time to figure out where I am in my own life. But part of that was also because I was frustrated with the project and the amount of flame wars that go on the private list. It's been a few years that I haven't rage quit anything, but this was maybe the more grown-up way, and so instead of taking a break, I retired. Part of that, I don't know if it's frustration, but I felt that I wasn't contributing enough to the DebConf committee. And And that's a challenge with myself, that I want to do too much, even though you're not supposed to be having any work in the DebConf committee. And so at the moment, I am not sure if this is a place I need to be. I sort of sense that I like doing stuff, and just like being on standby is not suited to my personality. How do the other members feel? Stefano?
Well, I mean, going back to the question on the delegation, it seems to be working. We've all been sort of coming into and out of existence in the committee over time, and having multiple people means you can do that. I think that's been okay. There have been teams where they probably weren't getting the supervision that they should have got, but that always happens. Yeah, I'm happy with the delegation as is.
I mean, I'm also happy with the delegation, with the way we're working. I think it's a good scheme that we found in the end. We had a different kind of delegation some maybe 7 years ago, which imploded due to many factors which are not exactly on topic right now. I think it works, and I am happy to continue to be working in this group.
In general, I would like to see more turnover and new blood in the long-standing DebConf teams. Things seem to have got a little bit entrenched in the last few years. But that's always...
The last few years have been quite special.
Yes.
I mean, we have not seen a DebConf turnover. We have not seen a DebConf in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Was that why you were suggesting better documentation? What do you think could be...
Oh, partly that. No, also just those that... The documentation I started on is things that I would have found useful for me, and advice that we're giving new teams. It's hard because you can give teams documentation and they won't read it. It's not the same as telling them.
Yeah.
But you can do your best. We've got the eternal struggle of a local team that does the local team things, and a global team that expects things to be done the same way they're done every year, and the two don't talk to each other and we don't stay in alignment on things. It
is difficult, from like, when I rage quit the last time, it was 2015, well, going on to 2016. So I attended the Germany DebConf and I learned how to organize, and that is a very good onboarding process. But then when I was doing my thing for DebConf 16 in Cape Town, you get so frustrated because there are things that are, the Debian way could be construed as being inefficient. And there are long-standing members who do not want to give up the way that they do things, even though it's not a good way. And how do you manage that? Because they have so much institutional memory, you don't want to piss them off. Because if they leave, you're going to fall down. But how do you open that up? And that's a very typical problem, I think, of volunteer projects in general.
But we can encourage people to take... We can encourage turnover by encouraging people to step up and do more. I mean, trying to pull people into leadership in the teams. Like, I don't know, video team I see being the same people again and again. We probably need to be working harder to bring...
I think the problem with video team is that you're so competent that it's intimidating. Because no way is going to be able to do a good enough job. And I don't know how you fix that, because you don't want to, do
Well,
it
I can
bad.
tell you how we got involved. This whole Go Rage Quit, I mean...
Exactly. Rage Quit works, man.
we got Rage Quit on and we had to figure out how stuff worked.
Yeah, which is not ideal, you don't want to...
No.
So just on a completely side note, I just remembered in the DPL talk when High Voltage said he would like to get a professional who has experience in other volunteer-led teams, because these are common challenges, and maybe they've got methods of helping. And maybe that's just a challenge of, maybe that's just a part of the existential challenge of a volunteer project.
We seem to have the assumption that the local team is going to pick up several of the tasks that are not necessarily local. Like content doesn't have to be local.
Yes.
Sponsorship has some component of local work, but mostly it's not. Video teams, people from all over the world. Yeah, I have the impression that it's more realistic to assume the local team is going to handle the local things. But then it creates a problem that in the next one we don't have new people, right?
Yes. And there is overlap, and we've had issues with video this year because we didn't get coordination between video team and local team on what the venues looked like. I mean, many people dropped balls on this, but we couldn't get plans of the venue, so we couldn't guess how much cable we were going to need. So no one made a list of these are all the cables we need to buy. So we never told anybody, we need to buy these, we need to hire these. So we came to the conference and like, oh, we're going to need tripods. Let's try and find some tripods. These things happen. It helps if these teams have somebody local. Okay, maybe video is a special case yet. Video team probably needs somebody local involved in the team to represent them locally and pry information out of the rest of the local teams.
Sponsors team the same. We basically refuse to start working before the local team has identified 1, 2, 3 people that join and help. And that is very deliberate because otherwise it's tedious work that many people would love to have the global team handle. Like, bring us the money and we'll do the conference. And that's not how it works, especially because we want to have local companies here, because the outreach is not only to people, it is also to companies, to the government. And so it's crucially important to have local companies here. A job fair is only half the game if there's no local companies that are also willing to hire the local students which are attracted by DebConf. On the turnover, I actually don't think we need turnover on the committee itself. I guess it's an open secret that I plan to leave after India because I think I've done it long enough and I feel comfortable that we'll find somebody to fill the hole. But this is the way that I think it's the best to do both on this team and on the other teams within DebConf. Before you go, find somebody to replace you, find new blood, and not rage quit or totally burn yourself out and then throw the stuff away and let others sort it out. Because I think this is kind of what we need to go to. If people want to have a job for 10 years and do 10 years of video team, why should we not have them? They are competent, they know everything, and as long as it works with the team and they're not hindering other people to join, it's totally awesome that they want to donate their time for 10 years or more. But the thing is, if they want to go, it would be kind of totally mean, even if you had 10 years of a good job, to then say like, well, I quit and others should sort out the mess and I'm not doing handover and I'm not available anymore. And before somebody feels like that, I think half a year before you feel like that, step up and basically tell the committee if that's where you need support, and we'll try to get you together with somebody that may record the documentation. The easiest way, if somebody's not willing to write it, and so it's just to be available for somebody else to ask questions and write a script, and basically that gets somebody started, at least with minimal effort.
Yeah, speaking of turnover in the committee itself, I like how the technical committee does it. They have terms and it's well defined. Like, it's not 1 year term, it's a longer term, but they know that every many months or years someone is going to have their term finished and they have to find someone else. Maybe.
Believe me, you don't want the expiry rules of the technical committee. That they're made in the most deviant possible way.
Fair enough, but in our case, we can. We can change the cycle on every DebConf, for instance. You don't have to do that much complicated work.
And this is in referring to a specified time that you can serve and not longer.
Yeah, maybe.
Is that called tenure? What's that called?
Any other business? Or somebody else? Somebody wants to say something now?
I'm just offering the microphone.
So something that I've been wondering, and again, I don't know how much of this is my issues. What is the soul of Debian and DebConf like at the moment? So every year we go, oh, you know, Debian is still strong. You know, lots of people use it. We still get a lot of sponsors. But what's the check-in on like the psyche of Debian and DebConf? Because I think it's a sign if not many new people are coming. Are they seeing something that they're like, oh, I don't want to be part of this? What, has anyone spoken or thought about that? Just there.
I think you're trying to read a problem into a problem that you're perceiving yourself. Because like there's 240-ish people coming here, and that was after 20 or so COVID cancellations last minute. And I think that is quite a good size for the situation after COVID with really, really difficult traveling. And so I'm totally fine with that. The way that I've perceived the discussion so far of the DebCamp week and the start of DebConf now, people are totally happy to meet their peers again. They've missed them, like I personally have missed them as well. And the family feeling has kind of re-established itself quite quickly. I do think we have to do these meetings because, as High Voltage said in his DPL talk, the online stuff just doesn't cut it. It's not something that can replace this. There are good things we can do online, but it is not a replacement for DebConf, not even a visible one. It's just no replacement at all. And so kind of from what I have talked to people, there's really, like on the social side, on the does DebConf make sense? Are we happy? Do we need to change the format? There's basically no issue at all. We do have a lot of issues in Debian when we think about the aging population, recruiting new people, complexity in many areas. You know, Gunnar said it, like like when I am being replaced on the technical committee thing is something that people can nearly not answer because it's so complicated, and that's Debian. And you know, it's like every day in the chat we have questions to FTP masters or the release team or so about like, you know, why does my package not appear? Do I need to file a bug here? Why does this RC bug not actually hinder transitions? La 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 la. So like we are drowning in complexity, but that's the mixture between just it being pretty complex to create a great distro and history piling up, like, you know, cutting things and doing things anew is not our strength. We're good at adding things, we're just not very good at cutting things away. I think DebConf offers the opportunity of people to get together and do cut-through, breakthrough things, like we got Salsa because people were meeting on a DebConf, we got other innovations because of people being able to get together on DebConf. But you know, this is only a small contributing factor. The overall organizational problem is one that is not a part of DebConf. That is a thing that DPLs and people that are in the delegated roles, like, you know, release managers and so need to think about, because it gets worse and worse. And at some point in time, we will have to do bigger changes, or we'll basically be drowning in that complexity.
And that is something you need to consciously go look for. And it's painful and it's uncomfortable every step of the way.
And I think it's easier to talk about something like this during DebConf over a tea or beer or something than going on a mailing list spree, because however sensitive you try to formulate your mail, somebody will feel rubbed the wrong way and starts to derail the thing into some personal issue they are having with whatever. And these things can be more easily prevented when you're sitting around the table.
And it is probably a 5-10 year project to do that transfer properly, you know, and then ongoing, I mean, just the implementation.
You're a DD, you can run for DPL, please do. I'll be
If I do
supporting
my
you.
job properly, I wouldn't need to. Get someone else.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Just a question. The committee will decide the new city for the DebConf in 3 years in advance now, because I see there is a discussion about DebConf 25, and the committee decided to have three years in advance. So it's something that we'll do from now, or it's something special?
It's yeah. So there was conversations about that. I don't know if
I think
I
that
can
was
take the question.
that was a once-off something.
It was a
special.
once-off thing. We did say that it's, so it was because of COVID. That's the short answer.
Yeah, sure.
We did think about maybe it's something to do in future, but it does sort of leave the excitement, of the bid. And we effectively already work with teams across multiple years, because it's often happens that the teams who lose the bid, who didn't get the bid in year N, eventually have the bid in year N plus one. So we do work with them for another year, but people are still free to bid. And I'm not sure if we've had a conversation about 24. We would like to give it to Israel, but
It's preliminary, they've got it, but they've got the option to back out of it if they still, COVID has changed everything. They've lost their contact with the venue. It's up in the air.
Yeah.
They don't know if they can do it at the
Yeah,
moment.
and so I would suggest, and it's at this point only a suggestion, that we do encourage bids from other teams, but with the understanding that if Israel get their act together, they will win the bid. Just to get that N and N plus one thing going again. But in future, it will hopefully, without any further pandemics, get back to what it was.
And I suggest you make it what decision you have and make more clear. Like, we will decide for 3 years in advance, 2 years in advance, or 1 year, whatever. I mean, make it clear that the new rules, the rules for how many years we'll decide the next city before the event.
Okay.
Just publish something that's make it clear.
Well, we did have that rule in clear before. But the thing is, it was very strange that that year that we chose 3 instead of 1.
Controversial.
It was really controversial, but it was also, well, strategically and in hindsight, maybe it was not the best decision to make, because we ended up making a commitment. Of course, we didn't know at the moment, but we ended up making a commitment for 5 years.
Yeah.
With a very, 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 very changing future. And, well, of course, now we know we are in Kosovo. We know next year we'll be in India. We have a slight preference for Israel for the next iteration, but right now I would understand many people to be hesitating about submitting a bid because they are competing against a winner. So.
Absolutely. So there's some comments from online. Hi, Andreas. We all miss you as well. So he said he didn't come, and Andreas is one of the giants of Debian and DebConf. Personal feedback from Joshua Paisash. I'm hoping I say that correctly. Will online streams or hybrid continue into the future post-COVID? Will pre-recorded talks be available so people do not have to physically travel to the location for DebConf? So DebConf has always had a fairly good online thing, and I would love to see a much more hybrid setup. A hybrid setup is way more complex than either online or in person, and we are grappling with that, so we definitely want to do the best we can to make online participation as good as possible.
I'd say part of the issue there was video team burnout, doing online DebConfs without seeing anybody else while working. I think everyone just got exhausted.
Yeah.
And
the first year was lots of fun, and then after that I was like, this sucks. We want in-person back.
pretty much that, yeah, and video team having to run the event.
Yeah.
So when it came to this year, we didn't want to commit to hybrid because it was going to be difficult enough to make the event happen without having to figure out how to do hybrid, which we've been trying to do for many years before COVID. and hadn't got there yet. So we did an experimental handful of hybrid talks. The first one happened an hour ago and seems to have been fine. Hopefully things will get better.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, I'm very passionate about this. I don't particularly like traveling. I don't particularly like people. I want my dogs next to me. And so I would like to be able to contribute fully to a conference without actually being there. So I would love people to come with ideas, test things out in a mini DebConf format, and then see how we can take this forward. And
I also have a question as a conference organizer of how to make a conference interesting if there's a lot of remote content. Like, do you have a track that never has a speaker in it, and like it's a screen and someone can come in and sit down and watch a talk and have a nap?
Yeah.
What's
So
the appeal?
So Joshua, you're going to help with this. PaySac. Let's start a hybrid team. That'll be awesome. I'm very excited about that. Okay, someone is typing, but there's also a proposal for dealing with less attendees. Try to involve the youth, people like me, under 16 people, allows for people like me to go to awesome schools. I spoke at another convention and I got into a specialty school for computer science. Ideally, Debian could help youth get into good CS schools. We would love to do this. I think we're all too old to really know what cool kids are up to these days, so I think we would love to have a Debian youth if you want to get involved, whoever you are.
But no, let me add a thing. We actually have quite a few young people running around here. People from the local community have brought their kids. People which are in school here, entry-level students have brought their friends, their semester colleagues. So we do have quite a number of people running around here that have little involvement with Debian, but a lot of interest. And I've been sitting at the Hack Lab yesterday, and I've been installing Ubuntu with one, and I've been installing VS Code on a Windows machine with somebody else. The reason is they want to do Python development, and I think it's better to have them do Python development and go into being able to program a computer over just being able to use a computer. So I think this is a good opportunity. Like, we're all very open. If people come here and talk to people, they will get support. It is still the Debian Developers Conference, right? I don't want to mix this up. I don't want to do an outreach event and kind of have 500 people flood us that are like, what is Debian? Because there are events like this. There's Linux Talk and other events which have exactly this aim, and we shouldn't take away from them, and we don't need to be kind of muddling our own message here that the core team of Debian is meeting with outreach, with people that are potentially interested in joining us, coming here and seeing whether they like us, rub shoulders and see whether they want to stay. And I think for me this works very well. I've been doing this a few years now, and I still have the feeling that the overall setup for DebConf is very good. And I'm with Stefano. Hybrid conferences may be a thing. Maybe there's good ways to do this. But we struggle enough with producing our video with as open stack as possible, because that's also a goal. We have a video team because we want to be doing this deliberately ourselves with open hardware, with open software as much as we can. And doing hybrid is kind of one level of difficulty above that. And if the team doesn't feel comfortable wanting to do it for their own experience and then offering as a trial, I think there's no necessity to push them towards that. There can be online events which work for everybody. We're sitting all in front of a screen. We all have our t-shirts on and wave at each other. And we can have physical events. But mixing them is, of course, to the benefit of people that don't want to fly. But if you don't want to fly, then join an online conference. There's situations which just don't work for you. Like, if you wouldn't want to speak English, you wouldn't be happy at the DebConf either, because Debian has basically consolidated on English at that level. But of course we have mini DebConfs in Brazil, which are awesome, and where Portuguese is spoken, and in India, where there's many languages that I don't even know are spoken. So.
Yeah, and to add to that, and I think part of the hybrid and the use...
Our Indian camera person is smiling ear to ear.
Now you make me lose track of things.
For hybrid things,
Yeah, so before that I wanted to say, so I think in Germany in 2015 we had our first daycare, and I think since then families and the youth were welcome and part of the conference. But part of for the youth and for the hybrid thing, if you want this to happen, you get involved. We are anarchists. We're not going to go to schools and give a talk. Like, you do that. You come to us. We will help you as much as we possibly can, but we're not going to do it for you. We're not going to beg you to join. You join. And once you're here, you can do anything you like. The people here are so amazing I can ask so many stupid questions, and I never stop. And I've never had someone get impatient with me. So please come, please get involved. But we're not going to do it for you.
Yeah, continuing with your, I guess, with your collective stream of thought, we are a bunch of grumpy old people, but we are friendly.
Sometimes we're young, but we're mentally grumpy and old.
Well, let's say we've been located far enough from the moment of birth.
Yeah.
But I mean, this place is full of proofs that just coming across us makes some people stay. Of course, it scares some people away. Not everybody is cut for the same. But I mean, going back to Joshua Paisak's comment, well, we have seen many people under 20, under 15 join DebConf and later get deeply involved in the project. It's completely normal. Of course, not everybody joins that way, but please join. Please be welcome wherever you are.
And dip in, dip out. Sometimes it's like you just need time. And we're not going to be angry when you come in and then disappear for years and then come back again. We'd be so happy to see you. So play with it. I just want to say hello, Luna Bitson. Yes, we'll still do Umeo, but after Portugal.
I just want to follow up on Daniel's point where he talked about being flooded by 500 kind of outreach students who don't know what to do and might be bored, and that won't work for DebConf. There's other cases that also don't work for DebConf, like some people wanted like a type of a trade show element to it and things like that. There is scope for another conference that's not DebConf, that's not a developer conference. It's just a question of finding someone who's willing to organize it and get together and making it work. But so far, it's something that one of those things people want but don't want to do.
Just a time check, there's 5 minutes, so start thinking about closing.
The local team always has some rope to try something slightly different. One more thing on hybrid. What you were saying about software stacks, yes, that we don't have a software stack that does what we would want with hybrid events right now. We're kind of using Jitsi in a way it's not really meant to be used. If there was something open that did exactly what we need, we would love it. And please, people, go and implement things like that. For the rest of our video stack, it's currently coming towards the end of its life. Voctomix is no longer being maintained. Hopefully Voctomix 2 picks up soon. The hardware we're using for capturing from laptops is no longer produced. Hopefully we can get the replacement to work, but otherwise we're probably going to something commercial. It's always in flux.
Closing comments from... I'm going to do what I've sometimes...
Just to finish on the topic of physical versus remote and hybrid and everything. So if there was one positive thing about COVID was that it made the places where we meet more democratic, so that people who can fly, people who can't leave their homes, and they have access to this. And one way it was already suggested, I think last year, that we need to think about also having a remote event. It's not maybe not called DebConf, but a remote something, maybe half a year of DebConf, so that we can have a checkpoint during the year where we meet in a way that's equally accessible to everyone.
I think here again the call from Stefano, I'll repeat it. If people are willing to do this, we are totally happy to support them. I can guarantee you our DPL will look at funding requests and say, like, yes, that's possible. If you need that hardware, if you need, to rent those servers to do streaming or so, no problem at all. But the thing is, like, some people need to own it. They need to be doing it. I, for myself, I will not be doing it. I don't think the DebConf committee has the capacity to do it. I know the video team tried things and is not kind of overly energetic to do it after 2 online DebConfs, so it will be separate people. If it's a Debian group, you can definitely call this a Debian online, mini DebConf online, whatever thing. If it is outside of Debian, maybe larger FLOSS community, name it something else, we'll still be happy to support. We can also support things which are not like strictly only Debian, but Debian is part of it. But people that want it need to make it materialize. Just kind of saying, you know, it should be done is equally good as not doing it.
We're all volunteers, yeah. The video team has an online stack. It's there to be used. If people want to have an event, they need to bring organizers and they need to bring volunteers. The video team can't carry it all, but they're very happy to help make it happen.
I think one good thing we got out of this the pandemic thing is that more teams started working online and without even requiring the attention of the video team, say just the video conferencing facilities we have that were there from beforehand, but people were not used to really considering them. For many teams, meeting online will be enough for many decisions. I can say I have met with several of my teams much more than before, and without getting more people involved. So that's a great win. Thanks for setting up Debian social everythings, because we have used them a lot.
Okay.
So things have changed, have progressed in that way.
Yeah.
It's not
No,
that
there's
we're
been some good
neglecting
things from the apocalypse. Okay, I want to close. I'm going to run around the table. Closing comment, thought, keep it quick, just so we get all the voices to hear. Tumbleweed, quick comment. You can also say nothing to say.
Pass.
Oh, okay. Wait. Thank you.
I'll just say this is my 3rd DebConf, the first one in person. And I will say being in person has made a huge difference. I've talked to so many people.
No one's saying that, yeah.
Just as a note, this is cool.
Yeah.
I'd like to say that DebConf is not easy to realize, and DebConf committee is important to things works well here.
Thank you.
And it's great that we still have our Brazilian friends stick around, because we had a great DebConf there, and we have a great DebConf here. So just from us, thank you very much to the past local teams, to this local team, because you're just making it an awesome experience for us. Thank you.
This is my 3rd DebConf, and every single DebConf has unblocked difficult topics and made disagreements disappear, including this one already.
Oh, could you write that down? Afterwards. I'm serious, please write.
Thank you for coming to Kosovo and believing in us. I think you had a good experience, so that was our goal. I second one thing about the need for more documentation, so now that I know how everything works, I hope I will contribute a little bit to that. Thank you.
This is my 2nd DebConf, so DebConf makes make you feel like Debian is a family. So I just want the family back to my country next year. I welcome you all there.
We look forward.
Thank you. I've been to many DebConfs. It's always lovely. This DebConf is great. The previous ones have been, and I look forward to the next ones. It's good to have some clarity where it's going to be. Maybe 3 years might be too much, but some level of clarity helps also participants to know where we are ending up.
I sort of want the team to also think, but okay, we're closing. So I want to thank you all. I think the 3 years of lockdown has made me think a lot about what conferences are and how it's distributed, and that has been a very good reflective exercise. And I'm here.
You're on the committee?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. And thank you for all the plenty volunteers. You make my heart happy.
So So yeah, thanks a lot for the BoF, and yeah, and thanks also because the committee is an important part of making this happy, and so thanks as attendees since 2050 and being dragged in the DebConf, in the Debian and all that stuff. It's lots of fun, and I can recommend everyone to do that.